There's been widespread condemnation after a night of violence in Amsterdam. Authorities there say rioters actively targeted Israeli fans following a football game between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax Amsterdam. Amsterdam's mayor said the clashes had left her ashamed as she told a news conference that Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters were abused and pelted with fireworks, describing the violence as hit-and-run attacks by hooligans on scooters. Well, police say at least 5 people were taken to hospital and dozens of others injured. Israel's foreign minister is now en route to the Netherlands. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen has said she's outraged by what she called vile attacks targeting Israeli citizens. Speaking from a European summit in Budapest, the Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof earlier also condemned the violence.
The images and reports we hear are absolutely scandalous and reprehensible. I think that everything possible must be done to track down and prosecute the perpetrators. This is simply anti-Semitic violence against Israelis. That it can happen in 2024 defies description and is out of all proportion.
DW's Christine Mhundwha is tracking this story from Brussels. She has more details now about last night's violence in Amsterdam.
There were very violent scenes in Amsterdam last night. Social media is awash with snippets, videos depicting this violence. We can see attacks, chants, and it's just, in different ways. You've got cars being attacked, there's people brawling in the streets, people being thrown into water. A lot of this video has been verified because it has been posted on the networks, verified by certain news networks. So it seems that there was a lot happening in the run-up to this match it was a Europa League match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and the Dutch team Ajax. There were a lot of fans from Israel, from Tel Aviv, who'd come in to Amsterdam for this match, and it seems in the build-up to this, throughout the day, there had been a number of incidents. You do see instances where Israeli fans, Maccabi fans appear to be tearing down Palestinian flags. There's one scene where a bunch of fans are entering what looks like a subway. They're chanting very derogative anti-Palestinian statements. And then, of course, you've got the violence on the other side, which looks like revenge attacks. So there's different narratives as to what actually instigated this violence. But we know that ahead of this game, the mayor of Amsterdam had actually banned any pro-Palestinian demonstrations or gatherings in and around the stadium area, fearing these very clashes would break out. But there has been a series of political remarks at the very high level. In Israel, it is being called anti-Semitic. And we understand that the Israeli Security Ministry has also reached out to fans in Amsterdam, to people who've traveled, to tell them to stay in their hotel rooms. They are coordinating with the Dutch government. You mentioned those planes that have been sent to evacuate people and send them back home to Israel.
DW's Christine Mhundwha reporting there. And I also spoke earlier with DW Jerusalem correspondent Tania Krämer about the reaction in Israel to this violence in Amsterdam.
Well, there have been very swift and very strong reactions already overnight, and a very, unusual statement early on at around 5 o'clock in the morning from the Prime Minister's office, Benjamin Netanyahu. They're saying that he viewed this horrifying incident, as the statement said, with utmost gravity, and demanding that the Dutch authorities make sure that Israeli citizens there are safe. It was followed by another statement a bit later where it was said that Netanyahu spoke with the Dutch Prime Minister, and in this statement they spoke about planned anti-Semitic attacks on these fans there in Amsterdam, also asking from here to increase the safety not only on those visitors, those fans, but also those the Jewish community in Amsterdam. And we also heard from President Isaac Herzog. He put it in very strong words, saying he called it as anti-Semitic anti-Semitic pogrom against the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, and expressed also his horror at the events. Now, we understand there was originally planned that the military would go on a rescue mission to Amsterdam, but this was now cancelled, and we understand that the fans will be going home via commercial planes with the national carrier El Al, and one of the planes is supposed to leave already there from about 2 p.m. local time this afternoon to get as many of these fans back to Israel as soon as possible.
Tania Krämer in Jerusalem there, and DW sports journalist Felix Tamsut has spoken with Maccabi Tel Aviv fans who were in Amsterdam last night. He told me about some of their reactions.
Basically, the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans I've spoken with talk about absolute chaos in Amsterdam in terms of the organization, in terms of how the police prepared itself, and in terms of how they phrased it, being left alone on the streets of Amsterdam while the threat has been known in the run-up to the game. I mean, not only users of social media, we're also talking about media reports, both in the Netherlands and in Israel, mentioning this game as a potential risk. We're talking about a heightened situation as a result of the conflict in the Middle East. We're talking about a situation where Israelis are still worried about Iranian attacks abroad. So everything's very heightened, and still Maccabi Tel Aviv fans argue or say that police basically had left them be after the game. We need to remember the Dutch police is known to be very strict when it comes to football fans. So this is rather unusual that they would left away fans alone, regardless of the risk. And given the heightened time we're talking about, and given the level of pro-Palestinian supporters going down the streets, and the level of threats making the rounds on social media, their decision-making is definitely questionable, as it's being seen by the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about them. What else can you say about the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans?
Well, Maccabi Tel Aviv is the most supported club in Israel. It's basically the Israeli version of Bayern Munich, the most successful football club. Their fans come from all over the place. Left wing, right wing, there aren't any specifics to be said about them just because their support is so big. It needs to be said that their main ultra group, Maccabi fanatics, are known to have far-right views, and they've acted upon those views before. But we're talking about a few dozens of people out of a group of several hundred thousands when we're talking about Israel, and when we're talking about the events in Amsterdam. According to Israeli reports, some 3,000 Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were present. So we couldn't say that this is a group of people affiliated with a certain political view, even though it needs to be said, as said in the report beforehand, there were anti-Palestinian chants being made. There were chants about the IDF handling the Arabs in a very derogatory way. Those are things which happened. The removal of Palestinian flags from private houses' windows. Those are things that happened. Having said that, the attacks have already started long before the footage had started doing the rounds on social media. So I get the impression that those are two parallel developments which took place at the same time, in principle. So on the one hand, you had attacks taking place against singular Israelis walking around the streets of Amsterdam, also the evening before the game. And on the other hand, you had Maccabi Tel Aviv fans removing Palestinian flags, chanting anti-Palestinian songs in the city. Those are two things which happened. The footage is out there, and the handling of the Dutch police will certainly be in the center of criticism as days go by, I feel.
DW's Felix Tamsut, thank you so much for that important context.